Welcome to the show that dives into the climate crisis in Belize. I'm André.
And I'm Digna. Today, we revisit the Gillnet ban from a different perspective of the last episode.
Joining us, we have fishermen who are supporters of the ban, and Digna and I share our thoughts on what the Gillnet ban has meant to us and what we've learned over these past 3 episodes.
Before we begin our discussion, we will be sharing our moment of gratitude, 1 minute of rage. Each week, Andrea and I swap a moment of gratitude for a minute of rage on any topic that's been on our minds in the past week. Today is my turn to share my gratitude with you all, and I am grateful to be the friend that people feel safe to come to when they're going through anything. I guess I just have that gift for some reason that people, whether they want to go for a coffee, an alcoholic beverage, out for a good time, or when they're just having a sad moment, depressive moment, and they feel like they need to talk to someone, they always feel that comfort and safe zone with me. And I'm really grateful to be able to be that person for other people, because sometimes people are going through a rough time and they don't know who to talk to or feel that they might be judged. And I always let my friends know that this is a judgment-free zone, and anytime you have anything in your mind and you want to talk to someone, like I'll be there for you no matter what. So I'm grateful for that.
Oh, that's very sweet, man. There needs to be a lot more people like you, because sometimes a person like you becomes the only person like that in a person's life, and it's like, come on, man. Everybody can share the load of being somebody who listens well and without judgment. So it's good. It's great that you're like that. Everybody else, step it up.
True.
Today is June 18th, and my minute of rage is dedicated to this past week having been one of the hottest weeks in the history of the United States. And I just wanted to take a moment to express anger at the oil and gas industry for being the people who have facilitated carbon emissions to the levels where we are seeing unprecedented heat waves on this planet already. We're not even at the moments where people thought this would go down 2040, 2050. This is occurring now, and people are suffering now, and there's going to be a lot of pain experienced as a result of this. I read recently that there's like an idea circulating online of naming heat waves after different fossil fuel companies. And I think that's a great idea, because, they need to be remembered not for the money they made, but for all the destruction they've caused. And so, just unofficially, I'm going to declare this past week's heat wave BP. Why BP? Because they were also the people who were the perpetrators behind the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, which caused tons of suffering for people in the Gulf Coast. So in honor of that memory, I'm going to connect what's occurring now to BP. So this past week has been the BP heat wave, and you heard it here first, folks.
That's actually very clever. I like that idea. That should definitely be a thing.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think by next year that's going to be something. So Digna, this past weekend you sort of dropped off the face of the planet, and I wasn't sure why. And then you told me that it was because you took the vaccine and were experiencing some symptoms as a result. Can you tell us how the whole thing went for you?
So yes, I got my first dose of Astra Zeneca. Honestly, it was an impulsive decision. I wasn't planning to take it on the Friday that I did. I wanted to wait after the weekend, but my mom cooked lunch for the nurses that day and asked me to drop it off at the location. So being there and seeing there wasn't a long line, I was like, you know what? Let me get this over with one time. So everything was fine during the day. Like I was like, oh, why people to complain like this and nothing? So it wasn't until midnight that I started feeling the side effects. I woke up chills. I had fever for like a whole 2 days, maybe even 3. And it was like on and off fever. I feel like that's like the most annoying one, because you get like highs and you're like, oh, I'm starting to feel better. And then boom, a while later, you're like, oh shit, like I need to go rest. Like I'm not feeling myself. Like I feel really bad. So that's how I spent the whole weekend. And I feel like it was worse than when I got COVID. I got COVID last year. And COVID only gave me like a mild flu for half a day. Like I wouldn't have known I had COVID if it wasn't for my cousin testing positive and telling me you need to go. So it was definitely a little bit worse than COVID last year. Um, and I was feeling horrible, but that's mostly because I'm just not used to getting sick. I hate getting sick, so I try avoiding it. So having the fever really made me feel like, oh, I feel like I'm dying. Like I'm not used to this. Like for a moment there, I was regretting taking the vaccine. Honestly, I was like, why the hell did I went? Why the hell did I go? But then now a week later, like I'm feeling fine. I'm great. And I am honestly looking forward to getting my second dose and, being fully vaccinated. If you have been keeping up with the show, you would know that we've previously discussed the Gillnet ban in two past episodes. In the first Gillnet episode, episode 3 of the podcast, we had Andrew Rowe, chairman of the Coalition for Sustainable Fisheries, discuss the importance of the ban and the process the NGOs went through to make it a success. We then interviewed Gillnet fishers from the Belize Fishermen's Cooperative Association on episode 5, who were completely against the ban and had taken legal action in an attempt to reverse this statutory instrument enforcing the ban since November 2020. So if you haven't listened to these episodes and would like to learn more about them, you can find them on our platform under the titles The Belize Gillnet Ban and The Gillnet Ban Revisited. We explored and reported all sides involved so that you folks can use your own judgment on the matter. But first, we wanted to share some of our understanding of the situation as it's played out.
I think for me personally, I've struggled with the Gillnet ban due to its origin. Talking to Belize Fishermen's Cooperative Association for that second installment about their concerns, I bought into a lot of what they said because of who they were. They were fisher folks who were on the front lines. At least I believe they were. And I was feeling that perhaps Belize has become too reliant on foreign funded NGOs to be the people initiating conversation and environmental work in our country. I believe that actually, if they were invested in supporting frontline communities, that they would be trying to get greater buy-in from the public through changes in practice that engage communities and have those communities leading the charge on initiatives such as any sort of change of activity for marine aquatic management. There's also the question of cultural heritage. In the interview you're about to hear, one of the points discussed is how gillnets as a technology has changed. The change of their materials from natural to synthetic fibers dramatically increased their efficiency to a point that no longer made them a sustainable method to fish. Lastly, this whole subject has alerted me to my ignorance on various things, such as the way sea currents work, the way paleologic fish species migrate, paleologic being a word I didn't even know until we started this series, the way that fishing licenses work, and the impact of changes in fishing technologies on sustainability practices. It makes me realize that there is a huge amount of education needed to approach any of these subjects. And I hope you, our audience, everybody out there who listens to Marafaya and supports what we're doing, can be patient with us as we learn more at each step. We made mistakes with this series. We didn't corroborate all the information in the ways we could have because of deadlines and barriers to information with various organizations, many of them governmental, but that's not an excuse. We will do better, and we appreciate you all for learning alongside with us.
I agree with Andre. I share the same feelings regarding Belizeans being too reliant on foreign funded NGOs, but I believe that's also part of the culture. We are actually too dependent on many things across many levels. We need to start taking charge of issues that are concerned to the country because at the end of the day, it affects us. When it comes to cultural heritage, I'm all for preserving it because usually it's sustainable practices. However, this cultural heritage, as we learned, evolved to make more money and was no longer sustainable. It would eventually end up being similar to eating turtles being part of the culture back in the day, but then being exported for profit to the point that the turtles are now endangered. So the way I see it, and this is my opinion, and I might get hate for it, but like I said, my opinion is that the term cultural heritage at this point is being used as an excuse to continue the now unsustainable practice. But yes, this is a whole learning experience for Andrea and I. We don't know everything. So as each episode goes by, we learn what and what not to do. So we appreciate having you guys along for the ride.
My name is Nestor Leonardo. I have been a Gillnet user for the last 50 something years. I would like to just give a The history of gillnets, when it started. My uncle tell me like a story. In the past, they never used to fish in no gillnets. He say they used to fish in a lone hand line, and one day they used to full up snook, and sometimes when you're fishing, your line go overboard, and that line get tangled up. Now he was pulling up a snook, and when he pulling the snook from that was on the hook, he feels this other line, like when a fish the bite, and he pull it up. What he noticed that where the line get tangled up, the other snook get caught in this hook. And he said, look at this, So he took it to old Garifuna guy and they sit down, and then they said, well, if this snook get caught this way, we could make something like this. And that was like maybe in the 40s, 1940s or something like that. So and I'm asking there. So they started to make first gillnets, But at that time, in those times, we never know about the plastic gillnets. Used to be loan like cotton or
yes, it was made out of like a silk
looking gillnet,
a silk thread,
as opposed to something synthetic.
Yeah. In the years, we never used to get the plastic gillnets.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference between the two?
Oh well, between the two is that the gillnet that used to make out the old time gillnets used to have a special line to make it. And the difference is that further down the years that come by, in and in times, because you had so much fish in abundance, they used to catch fish for that. Alright? But when it comes to I think it was in the 80s, 1980s, 1980s, then the fish they started to deplete.
Well, the thing he asked the question, what's the difference? And
well, that's what I said, because in the time, plenty of fish was a lot of fish.
But I'm not talking about the fish. I'm talking about the difference.
Yeah.
The difference. One is made out of like a silk twine. The other one is monofilament nylon,
plastic,
which is much more deadly and more efficient.
Exactly.
Well, why is it more deadly?
Because, for one, if it's made out of clear nylon, the fish cannot see it in the water. The other one used to make out like a thin string, and it was clearly visible, so the fish could see it.
Yeah.
And then it was homemade, so it was a lot rougher design kind of thing, right? But the one that's out of the monofilament nylon, it sinks easier in the water because it doesn't get water soaked. The other one used to get wet and used to carry a lot of weight with the current and everything. When this one made out of nylon now doesn't soak or anything, so it's much more efficient, more deadly. A lot of fish, when they see it, it's too late. They're already in the net and get caught, right? So the bycatch in this net was a lot more than the older nets.
Yeah, that's true. And I could tell because when I was a kid, right? Like nowadays kids, you got toys to play with. And nowadays, I was about 5, 6, and we made a piece of net. We make a gill net, through a toy, and we put it, we went to a mango and just tied it. As I say, I'm 63, so that's like 50 something years ago. And we got a piece of net like this. So next day morning, they hail us. Say, you guys come over. He said, come and look. You guys got a snook. That was the first catch. I mean, that's the first money I ever made. We got a snook with only piece on it. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, further down, then when my mom and my dad, we raised my brothers and sisters, fishing with gillnets. We had 2 gillnets then, but that was the same kind of line where we talk about. Further down, when it comes to years and years, then we had to drop them kind of nets because they never used to catch as much fish then. So we went to the plastic
Mhm.
Yeah.
gillnets. Okay, and what I also want to say is that remember the days when fish used to be like on the beach and almost run shore.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Fish used to run show, man.
Yeah, run shore. Snook jacks. Why? Because they never had the amount of gillnets. That gillnets really destroy a lot of fish down to the years. Matter of fact, I love gillnets because that's what I make my first amount of money out of. Right? But we used to, he na papa says, I come from way down south, PG, and I fishing all over this. But no, you not see that anymore. Monk River, Placencia, right? All along the beach, we used to see that. And, right?
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore.
Why is there the assumption that there's this relationship between gillnets and the decimation of particular fish net populations? What evidence is there that gillnets is what drives this, among other causes such as the sort of development that causes the destruction of mangroves, which are typical in nurseries for fish of various species? So how do you establish that relationship? What data supports that from your understanding or experience, it supports that understanding of gillnets being the main driving force? Because there's a lot of things that influence fish populations in the country now and in the world. Because
Yes, I know that there's a lot of things that influence fish population, but the use of the gillnet, why we see the depletion in the fish stock, is that it's not every fish stock, it's a certain particular type of fish stock, right? Because gillnet is used to capture what we call pelagic species, right? The species that travel in big schools. And then when you set a gillnet, once that the lead fish in that school hit the net, the whole school will hit the net. So you could wipe out a whole school with one set. Those fish are gone, they cannot reproduce again. And that's the reason why gillnet has been so destructive when it comes to fish. It's so efficient that it could wipe out an entire school. That's why in Belize they cut down the amount of net that you could use to 3 nets.
Yeah.
And they didn't want you to join them together because it was so efficient that if you put, some guys had 10, 15 nets joined together, and the amount of fish that I could catch with one overnight.
why was the gillnet limitation restriction to 3? Why was that not enough?
That's a good question.
Why was that not enough? That is not enough because the depletion has been so drastically
Exactly.
depleted.
Exactly.
So with the 100 meter net now is not enough for you to make a living. You don't catch enough fish. Right now you need 15 to 2,000 meters of net for you to get a good catch.
When
Yeah,
was
I haven't used gillnet for the last 30 years.
30 years? Okay, and in your case,
I use it up to 2018.
you used it up to 2018.
Yes,
And so what was the date when you last registered your gillnets?
2018.
You last registered in 2018.
Look at it. This is 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So and the reason why I did in 2018, why I didn't, because maybe I should identify myself, right? I said I fishing when I was a kid. Also, my first, I was appointed to be on the BFCA. What we used to call it, BF. The Fisheries Advisory Board.
Oh, the Fisheries Advisory Board.
Yeah, I served there for 25 years, right?
The FAB.
FAB, correct. FAB. I was on FAB
Fisheries
for
and
25 years.
Board. Fisheries
I was on Narden board for 20 years. I reached to be the chair. Cooperative.
Yeah.
I went as high as being the chairman for Narden. Also, I serve on BFCA board as my chairman.
The Belize
So,
Belize Fisherman
what you're saying-
Cooperative Association.
What I know that these guys are saying now that they have BFC, and that this dormant.
I want to go back to the question of the pelagic species, right? You say that the gillnet is somewhat essential towards catching these, or often used to catch these, I should more accurately say.
Targets pelagic species.
So, since the ban of the gillnets in that time since then, one of the arguments has been that now there is a greater difficulty in capturing these pelagic species, and that this is now trickling down towards affecting the availability of certain fish species in the markets.
That's total untrue.
Okay, can you explain more, please?
This just a couple months ago when the mackerel run, I had friends that were gillnet users that were catching up to 300 pounds of mackerel a day on fishing line.
So
they see a big improvement since the ban of gillnet. And it's not only them, a lot of the other fishermen also. They catch mackerel, which is the main species that everybody target with gillnet. You get other catches like jacks and stuff, but mackerel is the main species. You catch king mackerel, you catch Spanish mackerel, you catch jacks, and those basically are the main species.
Okay. Maybe
right, depends on where you set it. If you set it more inland, then you will get snook and jacks.
Maybe I would like to emphasize on something that.
But there's no shortage of fish at the market.
No.
That's totally untrue.
There should be more.
Right.
What we should emphasize a lot is that gillnets, if you love what you do, then it's okay. Love and cares, two things. Why I say if you love what you do? Because gillnets, you have to really be there. At least if you take care of your gillnets once a night for twice in the morning. Otherwise, we have seen
a tremendous spoilage.
Like for example, people just set their gillnets, go home, go sleep. That's not a good
fisherman.
I understand. You know why? Because remember, it's a fish. If you set your gillnet, we used to set like 6 o'clock evening, and you go pick up 6 o'clock in the morning, you get a lot of spoilage.
Spoilage, yeah.
A lot of spoilage. And one next thing I know, right, for example then, between right down here, so from Shubun go down to Dangriga, you got a lot of snook run certain time of the year. And that place could be rough. I understand that people set gillnets, and because they can't go haul it, they have thrown away thousands of fish.
Yeah.
Snook, killing the snook. So, I mean, who loved the gillnet more than me?
Well, the thing is, right, personally, when I first started with gillnet, I started as a young boy with older guys. When we go out to set our net, we go out and we set our net 6 o'clock. And we would sleep on the net. 10 o'clock, we would haul. And then we set back. When you hear 1 o'clock, you haul again. 1, 2 o'clock, you haul again. And then you set back. Then we go ashore and sleep and then come back 6 o'clock in the morning. We had to check our net 3 times a night.
Because of the amount of fish.
Because you will have huge amount of spoilage.
Exactly.
Because the fish that get in that net 6 o'clock, if you go back 6 in the morning, that's already rotten. Right? And that's what was happening with a lot of the fish.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of fish the guys would just throw away all the rotten fish and just bring in the good ones. Because they go back in the morning. And the fisheries is not out there in the night to regulate this fishery. I mean, Belize is the only country in the world where you can left your gillnet overnight in the water. In America and all these countries, you had to take your net out the water. You cannot go and leave your net in the water. You set your net, catch the fish, and you take it out and go home. They don't leave their net overnight in the water because it's among a spoilage. You kill fish and they're rotten.
Yeah, that's true.
Yet Belize seems to be one of the only countries to have banned the gillnet. So I'm curious to know, what do you think about the circumstances here?
You have country have thousands of acres of fishing grounds, bigger than the whole country of Belize. We can't even catch a fish now because of gillnet, like Canada. It's totally banned.
Yeah.
So Belize is one of the only countries. There are other countries that we have hundreds of thousands of acres of sea that they have wiped out with gillnet.
So the same fish that are now no longer being captured in Belize, what happens to them when they migrate further beyond Belize's boundaries?
Don't say that they're no longer caught in Belize.
They're caught by different means.
They are caught by different means. But certain fish that are pelagic, they traverse, they go all around and come back round. You understand what I'm saying? So when they pass through Belizean waters, more Belizean fishermen will be able to catch with hook and line. You understand me? And if the stress of not having to be caught by gillnet, the fish would hang around more. They won't continue and just go.
I would like to explain something to you. Guatemala, right?
Yeah.
It was mentioned in that by Jose Coleman.
No.
Matter of fact, the Coleman family is the people that use the most gillnet. I'm not, my relatives are Coleman.
Yeah.
Them guys are my family, But I was the ones that stepped forward and said, no more. You know why? Let me explain to you the reason why I did it. I know that I said after I left from Northern from my position, that was not too long ago. I resigned from the Corps. Then I went back to Gillnet. Alright? Matter of fact, they asked me to be on the Gillnet task force.
Task force, yeah.
I was asked to be on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was defending Gillnet, not to ban. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But when these people come from Guatemala, as I said earlier, my own relatives, these people don't care, You know why? Because they're going back.
For them, bottom line and money.
Understand me? So
They don't
we
care.
used to get a spot where you sit. The last time I sit there, a big permit, this size. But I was right there, like what he said. And when I had these big flows, I went and take it out. I take it out and let it go.
Yeah.
You know what hurt me? When I see that these guys that comes, they don't pay a fishing license, they don't pay anything at all, or they don't live here in Belize.
Yes.
And when I see that, when we're fishing, we got tables we own tables like this for clean our fish. When I see 5, 6 permits dead, I don't go for that. When I see that they go set their gill nets and catch 15 tarpons and just throw it away, that hurt me.
Yeah.
And when you try to tell them anything, you cuss you out on top of that. I said, no. Why should I continue when I want my grandchildren to know about fish? You understand me?
Yeah.
So I make up my mind and I said, I resigned from being on the Gillnet task force. And I said, no, I have to protect my country. I have to protect Belize.
Yeah, but one of the next thing that's very misleading that they say is that the fish leave Belize and goes to Guatemala.
No, that's not true.
There's no one-way gate between Belize and Guatemala where the fish goes to Guatemala and does not come back to Belize. How do you know that the fish are not coming from Guatemala into Belize?
Yeah.
You understand me? So they try to put this narrative that the fish is leaving Belize and going to Guatemala and get caught. But they don't even know if the fish is coming from south going north.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me? And they say these narratives, which is, to me, it's unfair to the public out there that does not know better.
Yeah, exactly.
You understand me? And that's the kind of thing that makes me upset. Be truthful. I don't care, but just be truthful so that the public can understand and get a good sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
Because these fish are pelagic. When they go to Guatemala, they do not stay in Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
You understand me? These fish come back into Belize.
What was the occasion that brought an end to when you were using it?
Well, when I was using Gillnet, we were using what we call a cloth Gillnet, the old-fashioned Gillnet.
Mm-hmm.
That was a tremendous work compared to the nylon net.
Mm-hmm.
See, we get in there, it's who problem to clean. In those days, catfish were by millions. When Some people throw away the net because they can't clean the amount of catfish that gets in it. Throw away everything, bury the net with all the thousands and thousands of catfish. You catch skate, you know,
Everything.
you catch stingrays, you catch all kind of things that you cannot use. You know, you got conchs tie up in the cloth net.
Lobster.
You got lobster. You got a lot of these raw tea. The crab, we call the blue crab.
Yeah, blue crab.
A lot of that hook up in the net. So the bycatch was tremendous. But in those days, the fish was so abundant that a small village like Placentia, you catch a monk of fish, you only could sell a little bit, and you have to throw up. You can't do nothing to the rest. The coop no want it, nobody want it. And I said, here what? You know, make no sense. You only could sell a little bit. Because the coop not they buy jack, the coop not they buy mackerel, the coop, they only want snapper and grouper fillet and everything, and then they very, very rare catch them in a Gillnet. You understand me? Then we have to give it away to villagers. You know, you have to can it and pile it up. And so I said, sure.
How has fishing changed for you two since the Gillnet ban, or since you decided to stop using the Gillnet, which preceded the ban? Yes.
Okay. Two things. I don't. Since I grew up the Gillnet, well, I get all kind of threats, so I move away from sea for a little while.
Okay.
But I have one daughter in Mango Creek, and she have like her son is about, I should say over 2 years, and he love fishing, right? So in the months when the snooks they plentiful, and when they not come down, then you snook come. They went out, right, and do trawling. And to their surprise, they called me, said, Dad, they say, you know something? Say what that? He said, we catch three snook where they never catch for years and years, right? And my grandson enjoyed that. You understand me? So come on. I mean, we know it's not you catch snook with trawling. But you mentioned earlier something earlier, and that was mentioned also in the record, and I laughed. You know why? I was explaining to you about Guatemala, and I
Yes.
yeah. Okay. He know and I know. You know, in Guatemala, these people used to use some nets to circle jacks. You know, for the last 10 to 15 years, that is gone completely. Not anymore. They don't see it anymore. But one of the things that happened, and we got a lot of people that lives in Guatemala that have these and papers. So then jacks do not exist anymore in Guatemala. They jack, but they come over like from Sassoon County side. We see big schools of jack. So that means then jacks know
Correct. They are not being, they are being caught over there, so they stay on our side.
Exactly. Why? Because you know why? Because sometimes people don't care, and that's a word. Say don't care. And why I say they don't care? Because over there they catch funny fries and sell that, right there.
Yeah.
So these same people that they come from over there, right? Because they got the Elysian papers, I have seen with my own eyes. They get the small permit this size. And you know what they do with it? They set hooks. You know, and they make long lines. And sometimes, I mean, come on, why should you kill a split permit, or why you don't let it go?
No, what I mean is another thing. People like to assume that because it's a fish or it's because it's an animal, it does not have any sense.
Oh yeah, what they do.
And people can, and I can tell you, because I dive all my life, I fish all my life, I've been doing certain things for years, and I learn. I can see it. I have the experience then to see that fish learn. Because we spear gun, we use spear fishing. One time you could jump over a board and the fish like it's simple, you just shoot them up. No, they just hear the rubber, they stretch, and the fish take off. run, because I don't know that spear and catch up. So they learn. And same thing, if the fish learn there's no gillnet in this area, they will stay over this side.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going outside the part and kill them out
No.
like that in a gillnet.
If we know, they're after it.
Huh?
If we know they're after the product, if you know they're after the fish,
Correct. If they're
then they will stay right here.
Yep.
I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, I
questions.
do. I wanted to know. So one of the common threads that came through in the interview I did with BFCA members is that they stated that those that were supportive of the transition, who benefited from the Gillnet ban, that those people were nominally not active Gillnet users, but just for legal purposes.
Why not?
Well, they're making a distinction from the fact that there was people who had registered Gillnets who were not using them regularly, and those who had Gillnets and were using them regularly, and that because of that it affected some more than others. So if I use Gillnet once a week, it's different than if I would, just an example.
Okay, I know almost every one of them that was there.
The 85? Or which one? On the
No,
interview?
I could tell you what.
the interview.
That was on the interview.
Okay, yeah.
That I thought about the interview.
Yes, okay. Go ahead.
I know Armando. I know Armando's parents from before he was born.
I know Armando personally, and I know he's not a fisherman.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not.
And he shouldn't talk about BFCA. You know why? Armando is my brother-in-law. He was my brother-in-law. He married to one of my sisters.
I mean, he does not even represent a cooperative.
No.
Then that's closed down. He was just put on there to just talk, and for the sake of trying to show that they were being affected. But he does not represent fishermen.
No, exactly. And Fola, Senator Fola, he's not as when you represent somebody, when you represent the crowd, when we used to be in BFCA, we had an annual report every year. Then you got to ask them when the last BFCA had an annual meeting. No, not that. So I learned one thing in school,
I mean, which cooperative they are a member of?
Exactly. No.
I am a member of National Fisherman Cooperative. He's a member of Northern. Mm-hmm. Which cooperative are any of these guys a member of?
If you go to the Coop.pg, that's our restaurant right now.
Right? I can show you my fishing license from 1985 till now. You could go check it at the Fisheries Department. I have license every year. Mm-hmm. It's only $25. It's only $25 for a Gillnet license. If they are they claim what? $90,000. Why is it so hard for you to pay a $25 license fee?
Well, again, their argument was that they applied for it and were rejected.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, but that is not true, because you could go to Fisheries right now. Up to last year, they had signs up for licensing of Gillnet. Mm-hmm. Now they have signs up that they are not licensing Gillnet because it's banned. Mm-hmm. Right? But so no, that is to me a very misleading argument that they put.
Well, the argument, the rationale they provide for why that was happening is because it was known that they were against the ban and that that they were being discriminatory in who was accepted for registration.
That's not true.
That is not true, because this task force that Mr. Fuller was on, mm-hmm. he was a part of the task force. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mr. Martinez was a part of the task force. You understand me?
I was on it first.
He was on part of it. You understand me? They knew what the task force was about. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You understand? But the task force was there to look on a number of phases. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of them was to try and see how they could sustain the Gillnet. One of them was to ban. It was not like, okay, it was only for this one and not for that. Mm-hmm. Like they tried to put that it was only for see how they could better it and sustain it. It was for both, for everything across the board. It was not just for one. You understand me? But now that the ban has come into effect, and they did not benefit because they were not paying their license fee and licensing theirs, because it was the Fisheries Department that put out the list of who had legal license.
Exactly.
It was not us. You understand me? So, and because they were not on that list.
But you see, they never believed that ban may place. All right. You asked me a question earlier, and I could answer it to you because I did. You asked me if I knew everybody that was. Yes, I knew everybody. Almost. I won't say 100%, but I was the one that did a lot of work to that list. Right?
Yeah.
I did it because I know if I lived at PG and Sartaneja, so I know almost every fisherman in this country. You understand me? And if you take a look at that list, right, you know why the people know why license in a 2019 and so many when they see that this ban may take place, right? But you know why Sidney Fuller is fighting for this? Because he wants the people that lives in Guatemala to come back. They're the one that's sponsoring him. They're the one that giving him
Paying for this.
What's the evidence for that?
What do you mean evidence?
Evidence that he's collaborating with these
Because,
people.
all right, let me explain to you. If you get the list, you will see the Belizeans that got compensated, and you will see where nearly more than half were Guatemalans that we did not compensate because they lived in Guatemala.
Yeah.
But the law said you had to live in Belize, you had to catch your product, landed it in Belize. And these guys were using us, taking the product to Guatemala and landing it there. So they did not get compensated.
But I think you still answer the question.
But then the support.
But what's the connection between them and Sidney Fuller? Because that is just right now, we're just talking. Like,
Okay.
Okay, what's the connection?
Okay, let me explain to you. When I was I was the vice chairman for the Shark Association, right? This lately, like 2018, 2018. Yeah, because I resigned from everything in 2018. They didn't want me to be the chair because they knew that I would have been the only person to fight not to ban Gillnet. Understand me? So they wanted me, but they said, because this association was made up of majority from Guatemala. Of course I knew because, as I said, I'm a family, with our family, with our cousins. But after I said I resigned from both places, then they tried to grab at a dry limb, or anybody only could have grabbed at. You know, when one drown when one person drown and grab at anything. So then they think they were advised, because remember even in that when Jesus was on earth, Judas crucified him, and we knew that fishes never want this to happen. Fishes never want the ban to happen. So there were people using. So they advised, money play a big role in this country. So they were using this guy as he was not in VFCA. None at all.
None at all, yeah.
Who was on VFCA was
Mr. Dawson.
Daniel Dawson. Daniel Dawson, a member of the committee.
Of National.
National Committee. For you be at BFCA board, you have to be a committee member. From the time I know BFCA, and BFCA was founded, I think, about 40-something years ago.
But I'll explain, well, you may ask the question, how the connection, I'll explain the connection to you. Because a lot of people think that mackerel is the money fish in Gillnet.
No.
Mackerel is not the money fish. You know what the money fish is? Shark. Corn shark. These guys come from Guatemala and they can hundreds of thousands of pounds of shark.
Yeah.
And when they take it to Guatemala, it's like $10 US a pound. And that's where this lobbying for trying to get the Gillnet back on comes from.
Yeah.
That's where the money is. Right? And right now, shark is an endangered species, becoming an endangered species. Because these nets, I have seen shark this big that they catch. I've seen shark big as from that wall to that wall that they catch. Those net catch the biggest shark and the smallest ones. You understand me? But that's where the money is. It's not the mackerel that they talk about. You can slice in your housewife, could eat so much slice and feed the family. That's all bull crap. It's a shark.
Because this
It's
guy
the killing of our sharks.
This guy
That's where the money is. The fin goes for like $100 to $75 to $100 a pound for shark fins.
Oh, they may reach as much as
Right?
100 US.
As 200 US, yes, that's where the money is. So all this crap that they talk about net, it's because of the shark fishing, right? But they don't tell you that.
I mean, this cousin of mine's right now, he almost used to make like about, I should say, close to $1 million every year.
Every year from our waters
But he only come from November
to April.
To April or whenever Easter, you know.
Easter, yeah.
And he the one way. That's why sorry, dear, but I know that's why I know the connection, because my cousin then support. You know, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's okay. She got both lead trailers that Guatemala, and he then supports the Nifola. And we seen.
But he has been coming to our country for the last 20 years, doing this every year, and does not have a Gillnet license until 2019. He hurry run and get his license. Same guy.
Why? Because the Fisheries Department, and that's another thing that I want to come to. You know why we were so sad again? Because anytime you go to Fisheries and they tell them, listen man, the people that work without a Gillnet license, fishers don't do anything.
They don't do nothing. And I have seen them setting nets in our marine parks. Everywhere. They go out there at night. You see them 6 o'clock in the evening coming. And they go and set, marine parks around Turniff. They set all out the English Key Channel and then place the night. And early in the morning, come and go with the net.
Yeah.
And we Belizean, we love our country, we try to abide by the law.
Exactly.
But then it's hard for us to watch a foreigner coming into our country and taking advantage of our system. You understand me? And making a lot of money and going away with it. There's not even records. The Fisheries Department don't even have records of how many fish and shark and whatever these people are taking out of our country.
So the Belize is well known for having a lot of environmental policy and regulation that really look good on paper.
Yeah,
but enforcement is an issue.
No enforcement.
Exactly.
So I'm curious.
No enforcement.
Well, so then that gets me to the question of how effective is the Gillnet ban at preventing people who had already been practicing it in the ways when it was legal? They're beyond that level. How have you seen the ban impact behavior?
Well, I see the ban as a good thing because we have the Coast Guard. Because if we didn't have the Coast Guard, this ban would have been a waste of time. Because it's only the Coast Guard that's out there right now, and with a ban, once the Coast Guard meet you with a net, they know it's illegal. Right? But when it left to the Fisheries Department, they don't have any enforcement system out at sea. They mostly depend on the partnership that they have with these NGOs that take care of different marine reserves. But basically that's it. There is no other enforcement except for the Coast Guard. So I'm glad we have the Coast Guard when this ban come about, because they are going to be the most person that's going to enforce this law.
But I think also I remember Paula said that they had a skiff that they catch and they had fishes on that interview they did.
Yeah.
And that, so right now they like, for example, a lot of us move away from it. So and then one next good thing that we see is that, for example, at least about 20 fishers that should have come from Guatemala to fish in our waters, they didn't come this year.
They didn't come because of the ban. Yeah.
So which is good.
And then, like what Ms. Paula said, they got caught. Mm-hmm. All the people who are still using Gillnet illegally, one by one, they will get caught.
Yeah.
And I think they will change as time go by when they realize that this ban is for real. And then we will start to see the better effects.
Thanks to the fisher folks for sharing their story about why they're in support of the Gillnet ban. I feel like we not only learned a lot about the Gillnet ban, but we also learned about how fishing has changed in Belize and how fundamental fishing as an activity is to our culture. And so, regardless of the different methods people are using to fish in Belize, it is my hope and my understanding that fishing will remain a part of our heritage um, for the remainder of Belize's existence, however long that may be. So earlier this year, the Belize Fishermen Cooperative Association filed a lawsuit against the Ministry of Blue Economy and Civil Aviation, challenging statutory instrument number 158, which is the banning of gillnets in our waters. They claimed that the Association and gillnet users were not properly consulted before the regulations were passed. However, on June 11th, Justice of the Supreme Court Westman R.A. James refused the claimant's application to apply for judicial review on the grounds that their claims to not being consulted had been inaccurate and that a gillnet ban had been a piece of environmental legislation long in the works. For the moment, then, the gillnet ban is in effect, and it is our hope that the enforcement can result in greater protection of Belize's marine territories. We reached out to the Belize Coast Guard several times to learn about their enforcement of the ban, but have so far not received word about a possible interview. We will update the story in a future episode as it develops, because, as always, Belize has a lot of nice laws, and that's one thing I do take away from that second BFCA interview. Belize has a lot of nice environmental laws, but a hell of very little enforcement for them. And these laws will only mean something substantive if they're being properly enforced and there is proper accountability for those who infringe on those bans. So we wanted to reiterate that we have created a Patreon account you can find at patreon.com/Marafaya. There you can opt to financially support the work we do on the show, helping to subsidize the cost of transcription, fuel expended on traveling to do interviews, and payment for artistic collaborations, including our art design competition we have going right now. It's an easy way for you to materially assist us in being able to sustain the show for years to come, and we'll soon be posting exclusive content there, such as extended interviews and podcasts unrelated to our main feed.
Our art design contest, Marafaya wants to make our first merchandise for that. And we are offering a cash prize of $250 Belize for a design that conveys Marafaya's mission of fighting to protect the environment we love. Submissions are due July 31st, 2021. And complete contest details can be found pinned to the top of our Facebook page.
If you like the show, please subscribe and consider writing a review for us over on Apple Podcasts, as it helps to increase the show's visibility. If you write a 5-star review, we will read it on a future episode.
If you have a climate crisis or environmental story impacting Belize you'd like to discuss, you can contact us at madafyah@gmail.com or message us on Facebook and Twitter at Marafaya, and be sure to hit that follow button. Thanks to Alexander Evans for providing our theme song. You can find him on Instagram at Alexander Evans Music. And thanks to Demi Williams for providing our artwork.
And thanks to you for listening to Marafaya. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
And remember, climate change is real and collective effort is needed to save our home.
Rest when you can and get some shade.